I got a number. Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Ken Carbonelli, Deacon of St. John's Episcopal Church. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ken, if you need the mic, it's there.
Let us pray. Grant, O God, that your holy and life-giving Spirit may so move every human heart, and especially the hearts of the people of this land, that barriers which divide us may crumble, suspicions disappear, and hatred cease, that our divisions being healed, we may live in justice and peace. And also, Lord, send down upon those in office here the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their office to promote the well-being of all people. In your name I pray. Amen.
Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, with schedule designated the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using a clear, amplified recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name directly into the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Mr. Owens?
He is on vacation, work related.
Mrs. Stubbs?
She is ill this evening.
Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Strata? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlemere?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chadwell?
Tonight, we celebrate Black History Month in Gloucester Township. We accept nominations from our community for our 10 outstanding individuals that will be honored this evening. I'm going to hand the program over to our Black History Month committee led by Dorset Kelly and Mr. George Hill. Dorset? George?
Thank you, Council President Mercado and council members. Mayor Mayor. Good evening and welcome to Gloucester Township's 2020 Black History Month celebration. Tonight, you will hear about 10 phenomenal African American members of our very own community who have demonstrated contributions in the areas of community service, personal and professional achievement, or have exhibited general good deeds that have favorably impacted our Gloucester Township citizens. You will hear about 2 women who would not accept no when the obstacles appear to be insurmountable. Students who put aside themselves to help others, to mentor others, and to encourage others to be their very best. Leaders who give of their time and talents to see that others have basic human needs: food, clothing, and even toys for our babies and children. One glaring point to note you will find in each of our 10 celebrated African Americans this evening is the ability to press on in spite of the obstacles. Like those who have gone before us, and even those who remain with us, they press forward to the mark of a higher calling. Who, you ask, may they be in this race of old and new? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, Benjamin Banneker, inventor of the first clock in the United States of America. Dr. Shirley Jackson invented a method of eye surgery to help the blind. Elijah McCoy, the inventor of the oil dripping cup for trains and others. Remember that old cliche we hear, the real McCoy? That's our Elijah McCoy. They did not give up, and our Gloucester Township 2020 African American honorees are not giving up. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pitch your tents, sit upright, and prepare to have your hearts encouraged, your minds challenged, with a passion to run your race in Gloucester Township and beyond, alongside our Gloucester Township 2020 Black History Month honorees.
No, we open up the meeting.
So now if you will join us in the singing of our African American National Anthem. Lift your voice and sing. The words are in the back of your program.
Before we begin our presentations, we have a proclamation for Black History Month. Madam Clerk, could you please read that?
Whereas during the month of February, we celebrate cultural heritage achievements and immense contributions of African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter Godwin Woodson, noted African American scholar and son of former slaves, founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, which was later renamed the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, ASALH. And whereas Dr. Woodson initiated Black History Week, February 12, 1926, during the second week of February, chosen to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And whereas in 1976, as part of the nation's bicentennial Black History Week, it was expanded and became established as Black History Month, and is now celebrated all over North America. And whereas the 2020 theme of Black History Month is set by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History is African Americans and the Vote. The year 2020 marks not only the centennial of the 19th Amendment, the culmination of the women's suffrage movement, but also the subsequent centennial of the 15th Amendment adopted into the U.S. Constitution in 1870, granting African American men the right to vote after the Civil War. And whereas this year also marks the 150th anniversary of the first African American Hiram R. Revels to serve in the Congress. Hiram R. Revels served a one-year term in the Senate in 1870, where he fought for justice and racial equality at a time when African American men petitioned their legislature and the U.S. Congress to be recognized as voters. And whereas African American suffragists rallied not only within the larger women's movement, but within the larger African American voting rights movement. Through voting rights campaigns and legal suits from the turn of the 20th century to the mid-1960s, African Americans made their voices heard as the importance of the vote. Now, therefore, David R. Mayer, Mayor of the Township of Gloucester, and Orlando Mercado, President of the Council of the Township of Gloucester, do hereby proclaim February 2020 Black History Month and encourage the African American community to make their voices heard throughout the power and right of voting in all elections, and call upon educators, librarians, and all the people of the Township of Gloucester to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Mr. Mignano?
Good evening. I have the honor of kicking off the program by bringing up Oluwakemi Akande. Kimmy, as she is known to her 11th grade students at Timber Creek High School, was nominated by the Timber Creek Vice Principal, Mr. Gary Saunders. She's joined with us today with her mom, dad, and her two brothers. She takes all advanced placement and honors classes. She's currently carrying a 4.212 GPA, which puts her in the top 15% of her class. And I tell you, I'm always amazed when I hear that number because I still remark that they go higher than 4.0. I always want to stop before you get extra credit. That's good. Kimmy has a personality that is engaging yet relaxed. She's very popular with other students in the school and admired by faculty, staff, and administration. Kimmy is a member of Timber Creek's inaugural volleyball team. She also is discus thrower for the track team. The volleyball team that started, was that last year? This year it was? Okay. I did read in the Cyclical Sun. She's able to balance all of her sports and also be a member of the Theo Club, World Language Club, and Student Council. When asked, Kimmy mentions that she loves to dance and sing at her church, and when she has the opportunity, she even preaches as well. I did ask her before we started if she was willing to entertain us tonight with some song, and she declined. She said maybe at a later date. Kimmy also enjoys doing community service in Gloucester Township. She is quite an amazing student ambassador for Timber Creek. She's looking into going into law, and the colleges that she's currently looking at are Penn State and Rowan. So on behalf of Gloucester Township, Mayor, and Council, I'd like to present this to you, Kimmy. Congratulations to you.
I like to thank God, my parents and my family. I like to thank the mayor and Mr. Saunders and the rest of the school for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it, and I truly feel honored. Thank you.
Kimmy, we're going to get a picture after.
Sorry. Is Eugene Cook here? Did I miss him? All right. Well, Eugene is a student at Triton High School, and he was nominated by his counselor. He is a sophomore at the high school, or excuse me, he was a sophomore when his counselor, Ms. Kahat, met Eugene. Eugene has worked hard throughout his high school years and has consistently chosen challenging coursework to better himself. He's an extremely positive young man with a wonderful personality. He has a strong academic record and has been extremely involved in his school and community, and he does not allow any obstacles to get in the way of his goals. His rigorous pursuit of excellence is evident in everything he does. When he aspires to something, he follows through with a high level of intensity and commitment. He dedicates many hours to basketball, both at Triton High School and in his community. He has also become a leader among his classmates, as well as a strong advocate for himself, seeking out opportunities which he feels will benefit his future. Eugene will take any opportunity to help another person in need. He does his part every day to make a difference in his community. He is kind to others and always has a smile on his face no matter what the circumstance. His calm and steady demeanor lead others to feel comfortable in his presence. He is a constant positive influence to other students and members of his community. He possesses many qualities that are deserving of his recognition, and he will continue his commitment to service by enlisting in the United States Navy after graduating in June from Triton. As his counselor states, she is extremely proud of him and all of his accomplishments and cannot think of a more deserving young person to receive the recognition. So congratulations to Eugene.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have the honor of making a presentation on behalf of Carolyn Grace, who could not be here this evening, but her daughter is accepting the presentation. Laura, please join me. So I'll tell you a little bit about Carolyn and then get into the real reason why she's being honored here this evening. She holds a dual degrees, a master's degree in social work from Rutgers University and a master's degree in school leadership from Wilmington University. She's certified as a teacher in psychology, school social worker, and principal administrator, and moved to Gloucester Township in 1987. So one day in 2016, I had these two young ladies come into my office who lived in Brittany Woods, the Brittany Woods section of Gloucester Township. And they came in and they said, you know what? We want to take back our neighborhood. There were challenges in the neighborhood, and they felt a desire and a passion to do something about it. And after they left that day, I said, that's it. They're going to be our partners in turning that community around, because government can't just do it by itself. It needs that partnership in that community. They organized an action group, the Brittany Woods Action Group, and they held meetings with their residents. They started a program called Adopt a Mailbox, changing out the mailboxes. See, sometimes just the smallest things really make a difference because it's visible and they can see that. We put up community signs. We repaved roads. And in 2017, we put in a playground in that area. And I will tell you, to this day, that is a pristine place. And it's pristine because the children of Brittany Woods, the young adults, they respect Carolyn Grace. And they respect Miss Johnson, who you're going to hear from in a little bit. But these two young ladies came in with a passion and a commitment to turn their neighborhood around. You know, back then, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Shirley, there were 23 abandoned homes? 35 abandoned homes in Brittany Woods. And today?
4.
Yeah.
But they're up for sale.
Exactly, and that's going to be 0 very soon,
Yes.
right? And as I mentioned, it was that partnership that we so desperately needed. And I thank them both for stepping up and not stepping away. A lot of people just step away, but they stepped up and they make a difference and made a difference in that community. So I thank your mother very much. Please extend my congratulations on behalf of our town council and myself. And also, Carolyn is on our school board. She is on our local school board, so she's giving back in another way as well. So please thank your mom. And on behalf, again, of our council and myself, I present these recognitions to you for her.
She didn't give me a speech, but I could talk all day about how wonderful she is. So thank you for all that took part in this award, and the fire in her heart burns through service. So thank you.
Good evening. Our next recipient is Naisha Hill. Naisha. Naisha was nominated by the Vice Principal of Timber Creek High School, Robert Merlofsky. Naisha is a senior at Timber Creek High School, where she has a 3.75 GPA. She is considered by the administration at Timber Creek as a model student. She is a member of the Interact Club, where she participates in several activities in our township through the community. Trunk or treat, where she's out there shivering, giving out candy. If anyone attended our trunk or treat event, there are 5,000 people out in that park, and it takes about 3 hours to get everyone through it. But she's out there passing candy as part of Interact and working with our local Rotary chapter that is headed by her father, who's the president of the Rotary, and who in fact was a recipient of this award 4 years ago. She is part of the national, in addition to that, she participates in the Blackwood Christmas Parade and is also part of the annual Rotary Fun Day. Rotary puts together a program each year where they take 40 to 50 children, economically disadvantaged children, down to Wildwood's Maurice Pier. And they need volunteers. So Naisha has been doing this for 4 or 5 years as a volunteer. It feels like 20, right? So these children are there without their parents. So it's just the members of, yes, it's the members of Rotary and high school students, yes. And they all come back, all 10 fingers and 10 toes, right? All right. She is part of the National Junior Honor Society, and she's part of the Timber Creek Dance Company, which performs not only in Timber Creek, but also outside in the community as well. She is also part of a program called the Highland Soccer Stars, where they go to J.W. Lilly Elementary School and they work with children that have autism, and they try to acclimate them in different type of athletic activities, soccer, volleyball, and basketball. She will be attending school in the fall. She doesn't know where yet, but she has been accepted at Rowan University, Delaware State, North Carolina A&T, and Alabama A&M. But so she's undecided as of now, but she will, wherever she is, she's going to be majoring in management and in accounting. I have known Nyesha for probably about 7 or 8 years through her family. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Both of her parents were exceptional people. I met your grandmother and other family members in the past. And Nyesha, the smile that she has here, she carries it with everywhere she goes. And I'm so very proud of you, and I'm sure your parents and family are very proud of you as well. So on behalf of Mayor and Council, this is presented to you in recognition of exemplary leadership, outstanding service, and dedication to the people of the Township of Gloucester. February 2020, Gloucester Township Mayor, Day of Mayor and Council. Congratulations.
Hi. I would first like to thank the council and the mayor. This is very exciting for me. And also my parents, because I couldn't do that without them. But yeah, thank you.
Our next recipient is an outstanding educator from Blackwood Elementary School and a resident of Gloucester Township, Dolores Johnson. Ms. Johnson. Normally I summarize, I go off the top of my head when someone nominates someone. This is 3 pages, so I'm going to read this. She was nominated by her colleagues, Carolyn Barbella, Aaron Aaronworth, and Michelle Ryder. For nearly 20 years, Dolores Johnson has been a valued educator at Blackwood Elementary School. She has taken on many roles at Blackwood, including teaching first grade, second, and third grades, piloting the First Step program, and even assuming the duties of vice principal at Blackwood Elementary on an interim basis from April to June of 2019. Currently, Dolores is a critical member of our school's intervention team, helping striving learners to achieve success. Through the years of teaching, she has built great relationships with both her colleagues and students. She has an extraordinary ability to build young children's self-confidence and skills. Dolores increases children's awareness, appreciation, and inclusion of diverse beliefs and cultures. She maximizes children's academic achievement and educational success with her teaching style and strategies. Her charitable spirit is evident through her generosity and kindness. She's donated food, clothing, and toys to the families in need during the holidays or in any needed situation. The list of committees that she has volunteered for demonstrates her love and enthusiasm for education. She currently presides on the Math and Literacy Night Committee, as well as the CARES Committee. She's also a valued member of the One School, One Book school-wide book club. This assists with the weekly trivia questions and raffles, as well as anything else required in order to help make our yearly book club a success. She's an integral part of the Read Across America celebration and was instrumental in utilizing the company First Book in order for our students to receive hardcover books as prizes. She's always researching ways to spotlight the success of our school. She has entered numerous contests in hopes of sharing our students with our world. Come on up. For several years, she has facilitated and organized the after-school program SNAP and Title I programs, making sure that all students that are enrolled attended their programs and returned home safely. She also recommended students for individual programs, helping teachers choose students to participate. She frequently was required to stay late with students who were waiting for a parent to arrive. She's always willing to pitch in for the good of the community, regardless of the mission. And this is seen outside the walls of Blackwood Elementary. From 2005 to 2018, she volunteered endless hours hosting hosting fundraiser for the Timber Creek boys basketball team. The money raised from the fundraisers helped them plan opening night dinner banquets for the beginning of the season, provided a team breakfast while they're on the road traveling, and bought the team new warm-up suits and bags. Her most recent accomplishment was taking on the responsibility of Blackwood's vice principal from April to June of 2019. Mrs. Stokes, who's a colleague of mine on council here, retired. She was the Blackwood principal, retired at the end of February. So that left the principal by himself, and he needed some help. So who do they call upon? One of his senior, most trusted staff members in not just in Blackwood Elementary, but in our district. Dolores was instrumental in propelling restorative practice as part of our discipline plan. She has an uncanny ability to build relationships with students who have difficulty following typical school procedures and routines. She spends countless hours mentoring and watching out for at-risk students. In this capacity, she's been able to reach both the parents and students outside of the classroom. Dolores has her own honorable, unique way of addressing students in need of guidance. She's always respectful, calm, and even soothing as she guides students towards making better choices. She has also personally volunteered to oversee bus duty every day, so she ensures that students are able to experience a sense of calm and consistency as they depart from school each day. Dolores has made a difference at Blackwood Elementary School and has positively impacted the staff, students, and parents. Her skills, knowledge, and willingness to help others and dedication to our school and our community makes her our outstanding African member of our community nominee. On behalf of the members of the council and the mayor of Gloucester Township, in recognition of your exemplary leadership and dedication to the people of this township, Dolores, please accept this flag and these proclamations, and congratulations.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that had a part in getting this award. As Mr. Mercado was speaking, I didn't realize he was talking about me. I mean, I'm like, who is this person? But if they say it, I guess it's okay. There was a saying I try to live by. It's by a poet, Khalil Gibran. He says, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It's when you give of yourself that you truly give." And that's how I try to live. I don't have a lot of money, obviously. I'm a teacher. So I do try to give of myself as much as I can to help the children in our district. And I'm glad to see it's recognized. Thank you so much.
How many people here have heard of Dred Scott? Raise your hand. How many people have never heard of Dred Scott? Please raise your hand. When I think about the next award recipient, it didn't come to me until I was basically just sitting up there. And it came to me because of an earlier conversation I had with somebody else today, reading the biography of our next recipient, remembering the recipient standing in front of us, passionately speaking about Brittany Woods. Today, the gentleman in front of me, I've known for about 15 years, and he told me today, he says, "Dan, I just found out that my father's black, played basketball with Elgin Baylor, and my mother's Jewish. And then I was shipped off to an adoption home in about 1960 because my mom was kicked out of her house." I thought about that. Wow, that's tough. Then as I'm sitting up there, I'm thinking about Dred Scott. I am not a constitutional scholar. I'm not a gifted orator. But I remembered something about Dred Scott when I was in law school. And I'd like to share it with you. Dred Scott was an enslaved African American in the United States who unsuccessfully sued for his freedom and that of his wife and children. That was the Dred Scott versus Sanford case, which was 163 years ago. So I say 163 years ago. Now, behind me is a plaque or a certificate, seal, whatever. Can anybody read the year that this town was incorporated? 1695. So we had slavery for a whole lot of that time. Only within the 163 years, last 163 years, was this case decided. And how was it decided? The Supreme Court of the United States, the most brilliant legal minds in the United States, said, or the Supreme Court ruled, that Americans of African descent, whether free or slave, were not American citizens and could not sue in federal court. The court also ruled that Congress lacked the power to ban slavery in the U.S. territories. Thankfully, thereafter, we had a president who delivered the Emancipation Proclamation, and things started to change. But clearly from my conversation with my friend this morning, it really hadn't changed all that much. So now it brings me to our next award recipient. I remember her standing here. She stood up, passionately delivered a plea that her forgotten section of town receive some attention. Tough talk, from what I remember. And tough talk sometimes is not received well by the recipients. But as I reflect back on it, I appreciate that. I really do. It's that type of person that's going to hopefully improve the situation in the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years. I hope it happens. Our next recipient is Shirley Johnson. Now, that's about as good as it gets. So I asked one of Shirley's friends today if she could give me something to say about Shirley that might not be on the paper in front of me. And the individual said, Miss Shirley is extremely passionate about assuring all of the children have a safe place to play and enjoy in Brittany Woods. She went on to say that she is a strong community advocate and works tirelessly for the betterment of her community. And this is what I saw that day and what I have seen her continue to work at. I believe that you were honored with the Martin Luther King Jr. Freedom Medal. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
I took the time to write something about Shirley, and I'd like to honor that individual as well as Shirley with reading that document. Since 1981, Shirley Johnson has lived in Brittany Woods, located in Gloucester Township, after graduating from Camden High School. She went on to attend Camden County College and pursued a degree in accounting and business law. In December '97, Shirley decided she wanted to become more active in the community, so she joined the Neighborhood Watch. Since then, Shirley has been doing whatever she can to connect with her neighbors and the children, which she discovered is her calling and passion. The Brittany Woods Community Action Group was established in 2016 and continues to work diligently within the community by scheduling events like National Night Out and the Neighborhood Cleanup. By doing community service, Shirley has learned a lot about herself and the kids that surround her every day. She learned to follow her gut and to go for it when it feels right. If something doesn't feel right, she's learned to be still and wait. Shirley believes if you want to see change, then you must go out and make those changes happen. In 2018, the organization was interviewed by 3 newspapers, the Sicklerville Sun twice, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and CBS 3 Channel News. CBS 3 aired a nationally broadcasted segment on July 5th, 2018, covering on the community in a perfect union during one of its many projects. Shirley says it was a humbling experience, especially for the kids. We truly have a gift in this town. Ms. Johnson is our gift. So with that, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor. Thank you, council people. And also, I'd like to say something to the chief. Thank you, chief. Thank you, thank you. And yes, I'm passionate about my neighborhood, my community, and my kids. And they're called the Kids Who Clean Club. That is one of the reasons why Brittany Woods looks the way it does, because I have like 17 kids that help us with our different programs. We have 3 a year to clean up, National Night Out, and also we have other activities throughout the summer for the children. And I am going to share this with the kids in my neighborhood so they can see that all their hard work is being represented here and appreciated. Thank you so much to everyone.
For all you, thank you for all you.
Good evening, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing Chandler Kumar. I'm sure I messed that up. Come on up. How bad was that? How low would it have been? Oh, just wrong yay. Okay. So I have the pleasure of introducing Chandler. She was nominated by Robert Damala, who's the principal, I was going to say president, of Timber Creek High School. So she's a sophomore there, and she is making a positive impact on the school and the community. She's an exemplary student and an outstanding member of the community. She presently has a GPA of 4.4, which, like Michael, that just blows my mind. I just can't even comprehend that. She's a member of the student council. She volunteers for the Ronald McDonald House and also the Samaritan Hospice, which is the teens that volunteer in coordination with Samaritan Hospice. Mr. Damala was especially impressed with her positive demeanor and her willingness to serve others, and he thanks you for your service and dedication to help improve the lives of others who are less fortunate. In speaking to Chandler, in the future, she'd like to get into the forensic sciences, which some of you may know is an amazing field and a difficult field. And I always love when I find out females that are going into the sciences, because you always hear in the news and all different things that not enough females are involved in the sciences, whether it be medicine, forensics, biology, chemistry, any of them. So any woman that wants to go into those fields, I wish her the best of luck and success. And congratulations.
Well, I would first like to give honor to God, who's the head of my life. I would like to thank my mom, dad, my brother. I would like to thank my school and my principal, the council, and the committee for this amazing award. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Johnson and Mr. Saunders, sorry to say, but Timber Creek needed a little bit more than sweatsuits tonight for a game against Camden. Took one on the chin. That's all right. We'll be back at it. We'll be better. Loser's the best teacher. We'll be all right. I'd like to bring up Mr. Troy Smith. Troy was nominated by the principal of Highland, Miss Lisa Owen. Troy epitomizes what every student should aspire to be at Highland High School. He's committed to his academics, is involved in multiple activities, and shows leadership qualities. Troy has challenged himself in a wide range of academic classes during his time at Highland by taking a full academic schedule each year, and he ranks in the top third in the class of 2020. He has attended to his schoolwork and has challenged himself, especially in English and history. Troy has shown a positive attitude and work ethic in all of his years at Highland. Troy is involved in a wide range of activities. The NAACP Camden County Youth Group. He is also one of the top performers each year in all our fall drama and spring musical. He has taken elective classes in theater arts and vocal music. He is a member of our concert choir and our prestigious a cappella group that has won many awards. So I asked Troy also if he wanted to sing a few notes tonight, and he also shot me down, but that's okay. He is on our men's leadership team and also plays lacrosse. He is the true meaning of a rock jock. Troy was also selected to be a member of our peer-to-peer class in which senior students apply and are selected to take physical education with students with disabilities and serve as mentors throughout the year. In addition, for the last 2 summers, Troy has served as a camp counselor at the Gloucester Township Recreation Center. As principal of the high school, I've had the opportunity to get to know Troy over the last 2 years because of his leadership qualities. He has shown a high moral code and does things because they are the right thing to do, even if it may not be the popular thing to do. Troy is a respectful young man who shows strong character. Troy is gathered here tonight by his mom, his dad, and his twin sister. He has been accepted into Newman, Cabrini, and Montclair State Colleges. He's looking to major in marine biology and minor in musical theater. So Troy, on behalf of Mayor and Gloucester Township Council, I give you these awards. Congratulations.
I'd like to thank God, first of all, because it's the first person you got to thank, obviously. I'd like to thank my family, who's always been there for me. I'd like to thank Mayor and the council members for giving me this award. And I'd like to thank Miss Lisa Owen for nominating me. Thank you, guys. I'm really grateful for this.
I get to introduce to you another Triton High School student, Nadira Venable. She was nominated by her principal, Mrs. Bonmati. She couldn't be here this evening. Nadira is a senior at Triton High School. She was recommended because her vice principal is amazed by the amount of hard work she puts into every single thing she does for Triton. Nadira is involved in a multitude of diverse activities. She's a member of the pep band, color guard, stage crew, Tri-High News, and Key Club. She has been inducted into the National Honor Society and recognized in our senior showcase. Her leadership abilities are valued in her role as National Honor Society Vice President and co-captain of the color guard. On top of her excellent grades in all honors classes, her school activities, and leadership roles, Nadira manages to hold a part-time job at Chick-fil-A. Yeah. When Nadira first came to Triton her sophomore year, she was a quiet and shy young lady. She soon joined indoor color guard and found her home at Triton. She continued to spread her wings at Triton and join in more activities and make many friends. Furthermore, Nadira is independently minded, yet cognizant and respectful of the opinions of those around her. She's outgoing and fearless, yet cautious enough to make good decisions and uses good judgment. Every decision she makes, she does so with some maturity, with the maturity of someone much older. Nadira is well-rounded, respectful, tenacious, and friendly to everyone. Congratulations to both Triton students.
Mom's clapping already. So I have the honor of recognizing Makai Warner. I think he's our youngest recipient tonight, and I think we saved the best for last. So I went through the letter that was submitted by Nicole Daisy, who's a teacher at Glen Landing Middle School. And I tried to highlight the achievements, but as you can see, I have way too much yellow. So I'm just going to read it because I think to do anything less would be a dishonor to him. So it's my pleasure to nominate Makai Warner for the Black History Month Award. I've known Mackay for 3 years and felt honored to serve as his student government and student climate advisor and math teacher at Glen Landing Middle School. During the last 3 years, I've watched him grow into an outstanding individual who excels in community, school, and personal pursuits. Recently, Mackay's been accepted to the CCTS Medical Arts Program, and he wishes to help as many people as he can. As Mackay's teacher, I've witnessed his extraordinary work ethic, love of learning firsthand, and his motivation to learn is evident in his academic achievements. He's achieved principal's list or honor roll for all 3 years of middle school. Not only does he strive for excellence, but he also encourages others to do the same. There's another student who was self-conscious of her intelligence, and Mackay motivated her and encouraged her to be herself. The student is now getting an A in math. Just one example of Mackay showing his perseverance while helping others along the way. As his student government and school climate advisor, I've witnessed his exemplary citizenship and contributions firsthand. He's volunteered on Martin Luther King Day at Unforgotten Haven, food kitchens, summer camps, and volunteers in school to help with anything that he can. In addition to all this, he's the vice president of Glen Landing student government. He also contributes to the school and shines through in many aspects. He's been involved in concert choir, select choir, honors choir, school climate, student ambassador, drama, and student of the month. Maybe I should have asked you to perform. I might have got a yes. Mackay definitely does his due diligence with his responsibilities as student government vice president. He does not hesitate to jump into any activity where help is needed. School student climate ambassadors help the staff reach our students on a different level. The group was created to give staff insight on how to improve student climate culture. Mackay is an important part of the group and always gives ideas, and his ideas are always received by his peers. She first noticed Mackay at the sixth grade dance at the beginning of the year. With over 100 students dancing, I spotted Mackay dancing in the middle of the dance floor full of confidence. He displayed confidence and a high self-esteem. As he danced, he also tried to encourage others to join him. He's always true to himself, encourages others to do the same. Mackay made such an impression that day and still continues to do so. I highly recommend Mackay Warner for Gloucester Township Black History Month Award, and I'm honored to have him as a student.
I'm too short. I just want to thank Miss Daisy. She sent me telling me to write down all of my things. I was like, oh, what is she going to choose me for? I know it's for something. But she just never told me. I can't wait to tell her tomorrow that I thank her and everything. I thank the whole school, everybody who's noticed me. I thank my parents. Thank God. I thank everyone. Thank you.
All right, Mackay, way to go. We had an opportunity a couple of years ago to get to know Mackay and his outstanding work that he does. So very proud of you. Let me first begin by thanking Dorset and George for their help in organizing this program and the council for the support that we receive. You know, I love nights like this because I'm always impressed and I'm always encouraged with the quality of the individuals that we have here in Gloucester Township that give back to our community. So I thank all of the recipients this evening for just standing out and for giving back to make Gloucester Township a great place to live. To the young students, or to the students especially, let me just say, I know we have a bright future because one day you guys are going to be the leaders. And you're going to straighten out the mess that we're in one day, right? And I just encourage the young folks to, wherever you wind up in life, and we hope it's here in Gloucester Township, but wherever you wind up in life, just always remember to be a part in some way of your community that you live in. It does make a difference. You know, here in Gloucester Township, we cherish our differences. You know, our differences are our strength. And I wish nationally we could take a different approach, but our differences are our strengths. I think that there is one word that is lacking in our national dialogue, and that's respect. It's about respect. Well, we have respect here in Gloucester Township, and again, we cherish our differences. So I thank everybody for coming out this evening to acknowledge these outstanding individuals. Thank you for who you are, and thank you for what you do for our community. Have a good night.
Before we take a 10-minute recess, we'd like to have all the recipients up here to have a picture, please. Thank you. We'll take a 10-minute recess.
I know that's fine. I really think it's fine. I gotta get something to eat. I didn't even think I was running with that. Mr. Saunders was here on this. Right there. Yeah. Mr. Saunders.
I wish I did. He don't know me anyway. He wasn't my. You don't remember all the bad kids at that school. Oh, oh, look.
Thank you.
Shirley. Real baby. Take that for me. That was great.
I know who that is. That's my Very good.
I just wanted to say I just moved into Brentwood.
You did?
2 weeks ago, officially. 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Good. What street?
Berkshire.
Brookshire?
Berkshire.
Oh, Burke.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Berkshire. But we're not fully moved in yet. But we'll be fully moved in within 2 weeks.
Are you on nextdoor.com? Did you go on there?
Now, I haven't done anything yet.
You go in there and they say, I'm new in Brittany Woods, and you say, welcome to Brittany Woods. And then when you say that, you have to put your address in.
Okay, yes.
And then what will happen? Okay. I'm going to have the streets of this. So we'll be able to give you a lot.
Okay, good. Nextdoor.com, you said, right? Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't even talk about me. I'm so impressed. Thank you. Oh. Are we ready?
I want to congratulate you.
He told me. Thank you. Come on, Poppy. Yeah.
Yes, I know. Oh, she's in my grade. Yeah, I had her in freshman seminar last year. Oh, really? So I recognize myself. Yeah. Not this year, but last year I had. Yeah, we have the same grade. Yeah.
Take care. I remember those days. Congratulations. Good job. Saturday. When I was at a cheerleader.
Nice. Happy birthday. How are you? I don't know. So, as soon as I have it, yep, I'll look at it.
Okay, so.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
You want one of these for me?
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, so you have.
Well, this is great, I'll tell you why, usually I have to run all this out to make the copies. And I really need
You're the electronic.
That was wonderful though, yeah.
Sorry.
Mom, the only issue I didn't like about the last map in there, it was printing out
She
really
could see it.
dark, so it looks better now, so I'll just send you a whole new.
Perfect, love it. It's a pleasure, Candace.
Yeah, you
Always.
too.
All right. Now we'll, it should be about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked for Oh, yes.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely would have to give you that information. Yeah, I think you're Thank you. I said all we need is one cold glass. I mean, I'm not complaining, but at the same time. You see all the flies out? I know, they're all confused. It's gonna be a problem. That's right. I said, that's the thing, it does, it's like a domino, it affects a lot of things, it does. Yeah, I know.
But we had that, I sent it to you a while back, but it's sort of like the update. No, but just so you have it.
Yeah, but they say that was kind of like.
Thank you, Ken. Well, thank you.
Take care, good night.
You too.
Orlando stop.
Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. I have all the medical for you. All drugs.
We're doing.
Okay. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call again, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Estrada? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Mr. Parliament?
Here.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chadwell?
Here. We'll now have the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turns, they may address council a second time, only if it asks what was said earlier, not repeating earlier statements. The first public portion is for 15 minutes. 3 minutes is allocated to each speaker. Once again, this is for agenda items only. Anyone wish to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening, Ray.
As far as bond resolutions and agenda items, mine is a basic request because of the questions back and forth that we've had regarding bonds. I'm asking Council as you find things of great importance, you bring on walk-in resolutions. I have a suggestion for you as a walk-in resolution. And I think it's a good idea maybe that you discuss this today. Not to introduce any new bonds and borrowing to this township before previous bonded money or unused money in previous bonds go used. If they're unused and there's money sitting, it's my feeling that you should pass this resolution, introduce and pass this resolution to not borrow anymore until previous monies are spent. Do you have any questions?
No, but that's something to think about. But,
It's something actually you could answer.
I just responded to it. It's something to think about. Myself personally, I'm not ready to act on that. There are financial implications that I will have to take into consideration.
Anything other than a yes was a no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polidoro. Is there anyone else? It's always nice to hear from Mr. Polidoro. Mr. Krug.
Good evening, Council. Paul Krug,
Good
Blackwood
evening.
Estates.
Good evening, Paul.
Ordinance 2002 exceeding the municipal budget appropriation limits. Do you know why the state set that limit at 2.5%?
Mr. Krug, there is a public hearing for that, ordinance 0-20-02. You could reserve your comments for now, then, or we could address it now.
We can address that now.
Okay. Mr. Cars?
I don't know. Simply, I don't know. I don't know what methods go into determining where that should be. I've seen it as low as 1. I've seen it at 1.5. I've seen it at 2, and I've seen it at 2.5. We never know until they announce it. They announce it by a local finance notice. There is no explanation of how they determine it.
That's on a yearly basis?
Every year.
Every year. Okay. And has it, you said you've seen it step from 1 to 2.5.
Correct.
Has that been a progression upward, or has it ever gone down over that period that you've seen?
Both up
Both.
and down. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this has been happening for going on 30 years.
Do you know if it has anything to do with the consumer price index or inflation rates?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Appointment of Special Class 2 Officer.
Brian Robinson as a Class 2 Special Law Enforcement Officer. Mr. Robinson will be appointed from February 25th until December 31st, 2020.
Bid report.
Hidden Mill Estates Punch List Services, rebid, and Lakeside Business Park Punch List Services, rebid.
I'll entertain the motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Bear with me for 1 second. Next, we have ordinances. It's the first reading's introduction. There will not be a public hearing until the second reading of this ordinance. Ordinance 0-20-03 is an ordinance repealing and replacing Article 10, Affordable Housing Procedure and Eligibility Requirements of the Land Development Ordinance of the Township to address the requirements of the Fair Housing Act and Uniform Housing Affordability Controls regarding compliance with the Township's affordable housing obligations. Mr. Carmer, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, basically, the title says basically what it is. It's the amending the procedures and conforms with our fair share settlement agreement. You all know from prior discussions and meetings that we're heading towards another hearing coming up in May, I believe, to confirm our plan and any amendments there to it. I know Mr. Bach is here. If there's any comments that you wish to make on this, or reserve for the public portion or public hearing, a second reading.
Fine, thank you. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes, next is ordinance 0-20-04. Once again, this is first reading, introduction. There will not be a public hearing on this until the second reading of this ordinance. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, and State of New Jersey, amending ordinance 0-12-26 entitled the Lakeland Complex Phase 1, Block 12301, redevelopment plan in accordance with NJSA 4012A-1 EDSEC local redevelopment and housing law. This is redevelopment land use elements amended to add the following. It talks about to permit multi-family housing within block 12301. Mr. Leckner, Mr. Box, is there anything you want to add to that?
This basically is consistent with our amendment to the fair share plan. This approval is going to be part of our fair share plan to help the township accomplish its goal for fair share housing. This replaces, in a sense, the market to affordable portion of our prior agreement.
With that, I entertain a motion. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-20-05. Again, this is the first reading and introduction. A hearing will be held at the second reading. This is ordinance adopting redevelopment plan for the entirety of block 12302, lot 1, Lakeland Phase 2. This had where the planning consultant prepared a redevelopment plan for the entirety of block 12302, lot 1. This is referred to the Gloucester Township Planning Board. Mr. Bach, is there something you want to add to that at all?
In essence, the same as the amendment to the Lakeland Development Phase 1 is to provide for inclusionary affordable housing as part of an overall residential development. This is on the other side of the road.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Bach. On the question, excuse me, I entertain a motion. Thank you.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have ordinances. There's a second reading, and there will be a public hearing. Ordinance 0-20-01, ordinance amending bond ordinance of 0-14-02 of the Township of Gloucester and the County of Camden. This appropriates monies for various improvements to the township's stormwater drainage system. Various improvements to the Redwood Street culvert. Mr. Carson, is there something you'd like to add to that?
Yes, you recall at the last meeting, I had stated that I was not sure about the funding on the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust going back into 14 and 15. And I had asked that I be able to research that and come back to the meeting. Despite that, the Patch went forward with a brief article that really did not reflect what was said at the meeting. So I did look back at that, and what I found was that we did not borrow any money for Redwood Culvert. We borrowed money for all those other projects that are up there in the top portion that were completed in 15, 16, and 17. That total amount of borrowing was $670,069, of which 75%, $552,552,000 was at 0%, and 25% was at 4.5%, which was $167,517. We did not borrow anything for Redwood, and we still haven't borrowed anything for Redwood. What we're doing is moving approved money to the Redwood project because it requires more funds. So once that is completed, we will then apply for those monies and be reimbursed for them.
Thank you, Mr. Cardis. We'll now open up the public hearing for this ordinance. Mr. Heimbaugh.
Good evening, Pete Heimbaugh, Morningstar Court. Mr. Cardis, thank you for that explanation. So in 2014, we did not borrow 1.75 million.
Not.
We borrowed 700,000.
We actually borrowed the money. You get the money, you draw down the money as the project is completed.
Draw it from where? I'm
So
sorry.
once the project is completed, you draw down. So the actual drawdown to, because these projects take considerable time. Drainage projects, you may have easements, and it's complicated. They take longer to do. So these approvals were completed, some of them in 16, some of them in 17. We then submitted for the reimbursement from the state NJEIT program, and we received those monies back, just as I recited to you the exact amounts that we received.
So when you actually spend the money and complete a project, you apply for reimbursement, and that reimbursement is cash and it's a loan also.
Yes, it's a reimbursement program. At the time, it was 75% grant, 25% loan. I believe at this point in time, it might be 50% grant, 50% loan. So the conditions may have changed.
Okay, thank you. So the amount we're moving now into this Redwood project is about 1.1 million now, when you take what's the original project amount and add this transferred in amount.
Of 684,000, correct.
Plus what was all, plus about 0.4, about 400,000 was already there.
It comes out to a little over 1 million.
Yes.
About 1.1 million, correct.
So, and we haven't spent that yet,
We have not.
and we haven't borrowed that money yet.
We have not.
But we will, once we spend it, we will borrow the money. Now, I did see, for that project, we did receive bids about 3 months ago in November, I believe. At around $660,000 were the $670,000 were the bids that were received for that project and accepted. So is that the cost? Now that's the cost of this Redwood project?
The cost went up. I'll defer to Anthony.
The cost went up a little bit because there was NJDP permitting, so there was extra design that was necessary. I think there's some other professional fees that are included to be covered in that grant as well, so it's going to be a little higher than that.
So, but
I do recall talking to the CFO that she was moving the money over that was still in that section, the beginning section. So there's probably more there than we're going to spend. And therefore, what will happen is it just gets canceled out if the project doesn't require those additional funds.
you'll apply for and borrow, what you actually spend.
Only what we need.
And whatever's left over, that's 1 point something million that you're going to build this fund up to. I mean, this fund,
No. The fund was, the application was initially funded for 1.7 million.
Total,
We completed 670,000 in improvements. So now there's $1.1 million roughly.
Yeah.
So this project may only cost us 700,000. So that difference of $400,000 will be just, we'll go back to NJEIT and tell them we don't need it. And that's canceling. It's canceling the.
you'll never borrow it, you never pay
Never
interest
borrow
on it, never,
No.
never
Goes
go
away.
to your bank account or anything.
Nope.
It'll just, okay. Right, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Krug,
I'm sorry, Brooke, is this on 1 or 2?
this is one.
Okay.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Spinders? Yes. Mr. Leon?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-20-02, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank for the calendar year. This allows us to go over the 2.5% for our appropriations to be capped at 3.5%. Mr. Carson, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, this is something we have done in, each year. Most of the municipalities, almost all of them, as far as I know, do this. And this is the only way that you can generate a cap bank for the appropriation side.
And this is, again, this is not the tax levy. This is appropriation.
Not tax levy.
Open up the public hearing. Mr. Hay.
Council David Haig, Highland Village. As I mentioned last meeting, when it comes to cap levels and budgets, people aren't fixing it. Please put the budget within your means. Stay within budget. Don't go over. Last 2 years ago, we had an 8% tax raise. Last year, we had nothing because it was election year. So it seems like it's a 2-year deal. Every non-election year, taxes go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Mr. Krug speaks, is anyone else? Because you spoke on the topic earlier. Anyone else? Mr. Krug.
Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. I guess I simply question the need to go from 2.5% to 3.5%, in that since 2011, the inflation rate has been below 2.5%, in some years fairly sizably. So I don't necessarily see a need. The pricing index wouldn't suggest that we would need to appropriate that additional 1%. So I would ask council to vote no and to keep it at the state 2.5%. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Manure?
Yes.
Mrs. Strata? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have a resolutions on the consent agenda. Any council member like to remove any of the items on the consent agenda, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Manure?
Yes.
Mrs. Strata? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We did receive a GTE Gov access email from Denise Coyne at 1062 Landing Road, Laurel Springs, New Jersey. Question for council. Can you please tell me if block 12301 lot 4 is senior campus 2 or senior campus 1? According to resolution 1404-111, this property pays pilot payments to the township. What sponsor pays the township the pilot payments? What specific services are the payments for, and where do the funds go? Mr. Palumbo recommended that I ask Mr. Carlemere. I sent Mr. Carlemere an email on February 12th and have not received a response. Thank you, Denise Coyne. A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. Senior campus, this is senior campus 1. They pay $23,000 a year in payments in lieu of taxes to the township. Mr. Carlemere, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, this lot and block that she's referring to, 12301 lot 4, refers to senior campus 2. That resolution and agreement was given to Conifer LLC, the intended developer of the proposed senior campus 2. They were making their application for grants and federal and state funding in order to get that project moving forward. Those funds dried up, so they never finished with or any part of their development. The resolution authorizing it was part of their application form. They have to know and report to the programs that they will have a pilot program that keeps in line with HMFA. But that never came about, so this senior campus 2 was not developed. There is not a pilot money received under that resolution.
Thank you very much. We'll now open up our second public portion. This shall be for any items that the public chooses to discuss. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. The time period is 5 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 30 minutes for the entire public hearing. All those wishing to speak, once they've had their turns, they may address council an additional time. I'll now open up the public portion. Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, council. Ray Polidoro from Ariel.
Good evening.
I asked this question previously. I don't remember getting a clear, concise answer regarding Gloucester Township and the state of New Jersey. The question was, and I'm hoping I can get a better answer, why it is that when we've got major projects, why it is that we do not apply for the grant first, and then therefore whether the grant application is either successful or declined, which is usually not declined, to borrow money or bond money on a project afterwards. Because it seems that a lot of bonds that we get and receive, and we're holding on to that money, we wind up getting a grant for at a later date. And when we get grant money, whether it's a storm, I understand that it's an extenuating circumstance, but playground projects, various other projects, why is it that the town is not applying for the grant first and based on its failure or success, then bond? Because theoretically, you're borrowing the money, you're getting the money back in grant, but you're not paying the debt. It sits with us. Most people, as we have to do in our household, you get a windfall and you're in debt, you try and get some of your debt paid down, but we don't seem to do that. Tell me again why it is that we don't apply for the grant before borrowing millions of dollars every year.
Mr. Cars?
So I believe that what we practice is that we apply for the grant first, and then we either fund or we don't fund. The instance you may be referring to is the two playgrounds, in which case we had no idea that there were Green Acres monies available that would allow us to construct those playgrounds. That was a last-minute decision after the capital budget was already completed and those monies were already placed into the budget. So that is the only instance that I can recall of where we're appropriating money and seeking a grant and receiving it afterwards. I don't know that there are other ones, because NJDOT, and Anthony would back me up on this, we make an application, we might put in there for the application itself, which is usually about $3,000-4,000 for them to file the application, but we don't put any money in the budget until we know whether we're getting the money or not.
Well, was that not the same situation when we had that microburst storm and we bonded to make the repairs and later were reimbursed by FEMA?
That was the method that was prescribed to us by the local finance board.
And that would be Trenton.
That is exactly correct. Local government had a procedure to do that, and that procedure was to bond for it and then to pay it off as a deferred charge in future budgets.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it mandated by the state that we do this?
To do what?
That's what you do with the allocation of that money, this reimbursement?
Yes.
That is a reimbursement?
Yes.
It's mandatory. So in other words, if Gloucester Township wanted to pay down that debt that we borrowed on, Trenton prohibits you from doing that?
We're following the prescribed accounting methods that is coming out of the Division of Local Government Services.
That's not the question I asked. I asked if it was mandatory, if you had no choice in that matter. Did Trenton give you no choice? If you wanted, when you get that money back from FEMA, are you stating that Trenton is prohibiting you from paying that debt?
Those were costs that we absorbed, exorbitant costs that exceeded the amount of the budget. And that's why we were permitted to bond for that.
But when you get that, what was it, 1.2, 1.8?
We spent the money. You're getting the money replaced that you spent.
But you were also sitting on surplus at the time. A good deal of surplus at the time.
We spent money. We spent a tremendous amount.
You're still sitting with money in your pocket and you swipe the card again.
Right, we had to show them everything we spent.
But my initial, given the situation, let's use a hypothetical. You do bond for something and you get reimbursed, whether it's a grant, FEMA, whatever the case may be. Are you saying that New Jersey requires you to not pay back the debt or pay the debt? Is there anything prohibiting you from paying the debt?
I have to look into it, but I don't think there is, no.
So the choice lies with local government or the administration in this case.
No, I don't. Let me step back a second. Let me correct what I just said. I do not believe that it can be done the way you're prescribing that we should do it. I will research it and get back to you, but I don't believe that would be acceptable by Trent.
Okay. You'll remind me at the next meeting. I'll be up. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Gentleman here to the left.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Wallace. I live in Glendora. I am a United States Marine Corps veteran and recent resident to New Jersey.
Good evening.
I'd like to submit a resolution for Second Amendment rights as a citizen of Gloucester Township and a law-abiding citizen. I am of the opinion that the current administration in Trenton has infringed on my rights. The resolution's intent to send a message to Trenton that law-abiding law-abiding firearm owners in New Jersey are under constitutional attack. Furthermore, many feel that the firearms legislation passed in Trenton only burdens our Second Amendment rights. Once one is proven to be a law-abiding citizen of New Jersey, by the exemption of the firearms purchaser ID card, they have fulfilled the state's burden of proof. Our current permitting system was founded in 1966, indented to separate the fit from the unfit, law-abiding from criminal. No criminal follows the law. We, the law-abiding, are now under duress from our own state governments and criminals. I would ask you, our representatives, to consider this resolution for vote. I have attached a copy of this resolution, and in no way does this resolution make anyone immune from past or present firearms laws. See Section E. I'd also like to add that firearms rights, our Second Amendment rights, are in fact human rights, and our failure to protect those rights falls upon our chief of police, our council, and we have an opportunity to send a message to Trenton and to the rest of New Jersey that we will stand up for those rights, and we will stand up for the rights of law-abiding citizens to defend themselves, their homes, and their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like me to provide this?
Yes,
to you?
can you bring it up, pass it to the clerk here? The clerk's here, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, with the glasses.
Good evening, Council. My name is Elliot. I live in Glendora. I'm also
Elliot, can I have your last name, please?
Lorenzo. I live in Glendora. I also have a few copies of the resolution also, and I would like to bring them up to you.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I also have some facts that have been passed recently. As of today, 29 of the townships in New Jersey have passed the resolutions, and 5 counties have also passed the resolution. All I ask is that this is put on the next agenda meeting for a vote by the council. They are Ocean County, Sussex County, Cape May County, Salem County, and Warren County. And I have a handwritten list of all the townships and counties here if you would like that also.
Provide it to the clerk and she'll disperse that to us. And we can keep that, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Sweet?
Good evening, Council. Sam Sweet from Ariel.
Good evening.
Just for clarification, I think this is going to be for Mr. Cardis. The grants that we got for the playgrounds, I know they were last minute. On the capital budgets, I believe one of the playgrounds was $50,000. That's what we borrowed to pay for those. Then the invoices were only $34,000, which we got a grant for at the last minute, like you said. So in essence, Gloucester Township didn't pay for anything other than borrowing $50,000. So the grant money that it came in, did it go off? Can we pay off that debt, make a large payment, or is Trenton prohibiting it?
I'm not following you. I'm not sure what you're saying.
On the capital budgets that you put out, there was a playground for $50,000. It was budgeted for $50,000.
You're not speaking of 2019.
No, 2016, 2017.
I was referring to 19 when I was talking to Pete about it.
Actually, I believe it was Ray. All right. Well, back in 17, I believe. I can see the difference. 2017, there was a playground that was put on the capital budgets for $50,000 that we borrowed. Okay. The invoices
for that playground were 34,000, of which then you got a grant for at the, whatever, after the fact. That grant was 35,000, which then would offset the 34,000 costs that we had, which meant that we borrowed $50,000 for a playground that we spent zero on. So where does that 50,000 go? And when that grant money comes in of 35,000, does it go immediately to pay down the debt?
I don't know what happened. I'd have to research that. It is possible that it was canceled at year end, because as I've said many times here, one of the ways that if projects come in under the amount that is bonded, one of the ways that is approved by the state to put that money back is to cancel that. And then it goes into the next year's budget as an anticipated line item.
And if it wasn't canceled, because that amount was actually borrowed this past year when we borrowed the 35 million and wrapped up all the last 5 years of capital budgets. So that 50,000 was borrowed, but we received 35,000. So it's much like the microburst storm.
You're correct. It would have been part of that 34 million. So at this point, I don't believe we did cancel some debt at the end of December of 2019. I think we canceled around $1 million. So I don't know if it's part of that or not.
It wasn't.
I don't know that.
Okay, I can tell you that it wasn't, because those amounts were borrowed. I ticked and tied with those amounts that went to the 35 million, and those numbers are exact. So what was on the capital budgets is part of that 35 million. So we kind of technically overborrowed $50,000.
I don't know that for a fact, and I don't know why you're saying that you're certain that what was canceled was not including that.
Because the 1 million was not part, it wasn't a playground. But I'm just asking, if, getting back to the storm, whatever the amount was, we borrowed it, and I understand that was a circumstance that we weren't allowed to foresee. We borrowed that money to get through that storm, but then didn't FEMA give it back to us?
We received money back from FEMA. I don't know if it would have covered all that. I really don't know.
But
and
that-
I left it that I was going to research it. To see.
Yes, but what my question is, wouldn't it, and this is more for council as well, if we borrow money and then we get a windfall, wouldn't it be a good thing to pay that debt off that we borrowed, take that whole chunk and put it back to the debt that we borrowed? That's more of a question for council.
I will tell you, council, you cannot do that. You cannot pay off. Those bonds are issued in increments of $5,000. When the bond sale is completed, they're sold, it's done. The only way that you can put money back towards debt service is by canceling it, the fund balance in the capital account, and then appropriating it to the general fund and putting it in the following year's budget. You cannot just go pay debt off when it's issued through a bond sale. It doesn't work that way.
So we're prohibited by Trenton, is what you're saying?
I would think you would know this. You're an accountant too.
Okay, I'm asking government accounting. Okay, I'm a public accountant, not governmental. So
Funded, bonded money cannot be paid off early. There's no mechanism to pay it. You can't, people buy those as investments. The pension funds buy them. I mean, big companies buy these things. These are part of diversified portfolios. They're permanent investments. They have to go through their maturity schedule.
okay, so if we borrow $1 million for those bonds,
The only way to pay money back, I said it before, I'll say it again, is to cancel it to fund balance and then appropriate it in the following year's budget. That's it.
okay, so just, I need some little clarification. If we borrow the $1 million, we can't pay that back.
No, you can't.
Okay.
It's permanently financed.
But if we get $1 million back from FEMA or whatever, grant money or wherever, that money then sits in wherever,
Goes to fund balance.
and it goes to and rolls into next year,
Correct.
and it's a surplus,
Becomes part of your miscellaneous revenue not anticipated, yes.
and it's a surplus,
And it goes into surplus.
which then essentially lowers the amount of money that we need to pay our expenses.
It helps to offset the next year's tax levy.
Before you ask the next question, your time's up. You're more than welcome to come back after everyone else is.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss, you had your hand up. Sorry to point.
My name is Lindsay Hamilton. I am the local group lead for Moms Demand Action in South Jersey. And I'm here to read a letter to you. The vast majority of Americans.
Could you move a little closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
Yes. The vast majority of Americans and New Jerseyans support common sense gun laws that keep our families safe. Instead of passing dangerous resolutions that have no impact on state or local law, I ask you to focus on solutions that keep our families safe here in New Jersey. Resolutions declaring lawless counties or Second Amendment sanctuaries don't actually carry any weight. They will not hold up in court. These resolutions would not serve to protect us and are not in line with the vast majorities of voters, constituents who support common sense gun laws like background checks on all gun sales and red flag laws. 100 people die from gun violence every day. 2/3 of those are from suicide by handgun, and hundreds more are wounded. Our elected and appointed leaders like you have an obligation to ensure that law enforcement authorities enforce the law, particularly those laws that help us protect us from senseless gun violence. I'll continue to advocate for common sense gun laws and will work hand in hand with you and law enforcement to keep our community safe. And I have a letter from some of my members to submit to you guys as well.
You can bring it up. Thank you.
How did you come to be involved in Moms Demand Action?
I think being involved with Moms Demand Action because I was really tired of watching my community supporting project gun violence. I was tired of hearing about the mass shootings, but more importantly, I was tired of hearing about all of the shootings in Philadelphia, in Trenton, in Camden, everywhere around us. It's not too far from us, but a 4-year-old unintentionally shot himself with a weapon that was left out in a drawer by an unresponsible gun owner. So we're not anti-gun, we're anti-gun violence. We're not here to take anyone's rights away. We're here to make sure that laws are enforced fairly and our families are safe.
Where are you from?
I can talk.
That's okay.
Neither am I.
Thank you very much. The gentleman in the back had his hand up there, the black pullover.
Hi, my name is Edwin Rojo from Catalina Hills. Catalina Hills.
Your name?
Edwin Rojo. Just a couple questions of the Second Amendment Act. Is it going to be on the next bill next month?
Well, this is being presented to us, and I set the agenda. I would like for my colleagues to take a look at it and review. We do have a workshop that takes place the first Monday of each month. That's where most of the work is done when we discuss these items. We're not permitted to have conversations with each other when the public's not available and around. So this is something that we'll take a look at, but there's no guarantees it will be on the next agenda.
Okay. Second to add, Tabernacle just passed the Second Amendment Act today in their township. Second Amendment, I understand gun violence and everything, but me being a gun owner for over 17 years, it's knowledge and people, we learn to know how to handle a weapon and know what to do. That's the owner neglect. That's not everybody in the state of New Jersey. There's a lot of owners out there that are very, I'm just a little nervous, proper. They know how to carry a firearm. They're educated. People have to be educated to carry a firearm before they should own a firearm. So if anything should be mandated, Second Amendment is our right to the Constitution to have. Not that I'm say everybody's pro-gun, anti-gun, but it should be your right if you choose to have one or not to have one. My kids in the future, they choose to have one, it should be their right to choose. Nobody else should be able to tell them you can't have it. It was there for our forefather put there for us to make that choice. Now, I know a lot of people that don't want to own guns, that don't have guns. That's their choice in life. There are people that do want it for sports, for defense, just to have. And basically, but I just want to know how the process works so I know how to look for the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, the agenda's always posted usually Thursday evening or Friday morning before a Monday meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Krug?
Good evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. I think it's fair to say that we have reached an impasse in our dialogue. Why? Well, that's the question I pose to you this evening. I've tried to understand the standstill in our communication and collaboration. From my perspective, I've had a young man consistently stand before you for over a year, presenting suggestions, insight, and paths forward for a brighter downtown Blackwood. Passionately at times, but always respectfully, and with a research-backed, analytical approach. Yet, my emails to council go unanswered, not so much as a confirmation of receipt response, much less a progressive discussion. My invitations to select members to grab coffee or a beer so that we can build a rapport have been disregarded. My formal requests to have Triad Associates attend a council meeting, as they do in other townships, has lacked follow-through. When I utilize my public portion time to ask specific questions or explore exact topics, the answers are often fraught with fanciful grandstanding, much like we were all subjected to by Mr. Hutchison during the last council meeting, having called a legally permissible state statute un-American, a characterization which is wholly incorrect and obviously said to invoke an emotional response, but does little to progress the discussion of goals and objectives for the downtown Blackwood redevelopment plan. This same elected representative, in an effort, I assume, to discourage me, also resorted to hurling insults at me after that meeting when I tried to ask for his alternative implementation options. Now, I appreciate that the political arena is different from private life, especially in this day and age. But I've shown no political bias and have only been hard on the facts. So I would expect that some of the same manners and politeness extended in your private and work lives would be extended here, such as timely responses, teamwork, and mutual respect. I know that several of you have been asking about my political ties and agenda, and I know the answers you've received, which is that I'm not politically associated. And the only agenda I have is to work toward a better downtown Blackwood. So my only question this evening is, how does this council propose we work together in a mutually productive way?
I'll respond to that. And if anyone wants to join in, I'll be more than happy to entertain it. I was having a conversation today with Mr. Mignot. We were talking about Black History Month. And I had said to him, I remember there was a gentleman that sat in the back on the left-hand side a year ago with a neighbor of his. And he came up here and he had asked about having his road repaved. He lived in Blackwood Estates. And he had questions about that particular road. And we informed him that there's an ordinance that says that when a road is dug up, it has to be repaved from center to curb. That road was repaved, resurfaced, and then about a month later, that gentleman comes back, and there was a capital budget that we're introducing, which in that capital budget had street improvements for other people throughout the township of Gloucester. And that gentleman got up here and said, I ask you to vote no on that capital budget. His road already got resurfaced, and I brought that up to his attention. That individual was you, Mr. Krug. You've been coming here for the last year. You gave us etiquette lessons. You defined what respect was and etiquette to me. You've insulted members of council. You've insulted me. You have smirked when comments have been made to you. You have read Facebook postings and spent 5 minutes of your public portion time reading uncensored Facebook postings. When you talk about grandstanding, I think that was a little bit on your part that evening. You asked to work with us, yet you come up here and insult some of the members on council, particularly me. I could care less about your political leanings. You talk about wanting to be involved in teamwork and working as a team. Quite frankly, I wouldn't want you as a teammate because I see the way that you have discussions with us. I don't need someone giving me the definition of what etiquette is or respect. When you come up here, you ask the question, we answer your question. Because I don't respond to your email, I received your email. I acknowledge that I received your email. Do I agree with some of the things you have in there? Absolutely not. Some of them I do. But I acknowledge that.
You don't feel like it's a
But I
common
acknowledge
courtesy
that,
to respond to that?
Mr. Krug, but I acknowledge that when you've asked about it. But I have a difficulty working with someone who wants to say they want to work with me, or work with my colleagues, but then tries to light me up every other Monday here.
Like
Do
you
you
up with the
understand? Let me
facts?
finish. I let you speak uninterrupted. So that's why I have a problem working with you, Mr. Krug.
Because I've brought shortcomings to this council's attention.
Shortcomings? Well, I've addressed your shortcomings.
Congratulations, you've proved my point. Thank you
Thank
again.
you. Have a great evening, Mr. Krug. Mr. Hay.
Council David Haig, Highland Village. Just to confirm with the Second Amendment people here, I did submit my resolutions via hand carried to the township clerk on February 4th.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Sweet, you'll be our last speaker. There's 3 minutes left in the public portion.
Sam Sweet from Ariel. This is more for Mr. Cardis. We can't pay off the bonds because they're permanent. But in 15, 16, 17, they were notes. They were one-year notes, I believe.
Correct.
Could we pay them off?
No, what we could do is when we go to roll the notes over, you could pay it down at that point, yes.
But you couldn't pay it off early. Like if you got $50,000, $100,000 grant for those capital budgets projects, we couldn't send $100,000 to TD Bank if that's where the notes were?
Yeah, what happens is, let's say, for example, hypothetically, a $3 million note. So that note has to be reissued out for quotes every year. You can take that out as far as 10 years before you have to permanently finance. We typically don't go that far out. The interest rates were better on the notes, so we did several years of notes and recently determined that it was in our best interest to permanently finance all those different years at $34 million. So what you could do with the notes is that $3 million, if you determined that there were projects there that were no longer needed or came in under bid, you could then roll the note over for lesser amount.
And when you roll the note over, it's take the money, the grants that we got and pay it off.
I guess you could do that, yeah.
And the reason that wasn't done is,
In actuality, what you would be doing is borrowing less. So
well, yeah, but
you're
you
not really getting any money. You're just borrowing less the next. You're reducing the amount of debt that ultimately you're going to have in your permanent issuance.
isn't that a good thing, reducing our debt? Because reducing our debt then reduces our debt service,
That is correct.
which then would reduce taxes.
You would hope.
So why didn't we do that?
But then we do what?
Why didn't we pay, when we get the grants, why don't we pay back the notes?
Because what we did was we took permanently financed issuances and canceled that debt first, the oldest debt.
But the 16, 17, and 18, they were one-year notes that we rolled into 19. I'm talking in 16, when we got those grants, why didn't we pay off our debt? Which is a good thing, because if we're increasing our debt service fund, then the debt service fund isn't beholden by the 2% cap, correct? It's a loophole, essentially.
It's an exception to the cap.
It's an exception to the cap. So therefore, that would, I mean, when taxes are coming up, everyone says,
I don't believe it is for the tax levy. It's rezoning of the appropriation.
but it was in the past.
It wasn't passed.
It was in the past. So they've changed that rule now?
I think debt service is now, I have to check with the CFO, but I think debt service is.
If you could check with that, but in the past, that was a loophole.
Called a loophole, it was exempt.
It was exempt, which then which could cause us to raise our taxes over the 2%, the mythical 2% cap, that everyone, when you guys raise the taxes at like 6, 7, 8%, the first thing everyone was, I thought there was a cap of 2%. Correct?
We stayed within that cap.
But you can go over it when you have increased your debt service.
We stayed in it. According to the rules and regulations of the local finance board and the Division of Local Government Services, we were staying within our cap because we had cap bank on the tax levy.
I understand that.
You know that.
Yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying is if we lowered our debt, then that would have potentially lowered our taxes.
I don't know that.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Sweet.
thank you.
Now we'll close the second public portion. Polling of directors.
Mr. Parliament,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Burgess,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Leffernan,
I have nothing to report.
Chief Harkins,
Only just want to let council know that we just set the date for our annual police awards night on May 21st at Timber Creek High School, 7 p.m. Thursday night. We'll get the information out. The community's invited. It's a great night to honor our officers and all Gloucester County and citizens that contribute to the police department and the township. Thank you.
Mr. Chadwick,
Nothing to report, thanks.
Mr. Hutchison.
I would encourage the moms demanding action and the Second Amendment gentleman who spoke to the microphone to attend the workshop next week. I think it's a fascinating question as to what to do. Obviously, on one side, we have people who believe passionately it's limiting. And on the other hand, we have individuals passionate about the opposite. One question I want each of you to be able to answer next week is, are you asking me to sign a piece of paper that has no effect? And if so, not right now, Josh. If so, I'll be reluctant to push for something that means nothing. It's not going to cause any change. You're going to have to convince me that it will. So thank you very much for coming. I look very much forward to hearing what you have to say.
Mrs. Winters?
I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to recognize all the recipients that received awards this evening. And just a reminder, it is the last Monday in February, which is Heart Month, and Go Red for Women for Heart Disease Awareness. Heart disease is the leading killer amongst women. It kills one woman every 8 seconds. And 80% of heart disease is preventable through education and lifestyle changes. So women, please be aware of your bodies and your health and take care of yourselves and pay attention to the signals that you get. A lot of women ignore them, and that's pretty much what gets most women into trouble is they wait too long. I see it every day at work. So please pay attention. Nothing else.
Mr. Minier?
Congratulations to all our recipients tonight, and everyone be safe going home. Thank you.
Mrs. Strato?
Congratulations to our recipients this evening, and have a good week.
Mr. Mercado?
Thank you for coming out this evening. Congratulations to our honorees this evening. I want to thank all those that came here promptly at 7:30 for the council meeting. I know it's a long evening, but it's nice to be here with our fellow residents and see and celebrate their accomplishments. Thank you to Miss Kelly and Mr. Hill for serving our committee. We are accepting nominations for Women Who Make a Difference. That's how we celebrate Women's History Month in Gloucester Township. So if you know of anyone who works or lives in Gloucester Township that has made a significant contribution to our township, please go to our township's website at glowtwip.com and nominate someone. We will honor 10 outstanding women on the second meeting in March. With that, I entertain the motion to adjourn. There's a second? All those in favor? Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah, why don't you shut that off? I'm gonna put the microphone away.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Gotcha. No, you did fine. That's what it's all about. I love it.